I ever told you that. When I was going to have sex for the first time with my boyfriend when I was almost 20, my mom knew about it and my grandmother knew about it. And they literally helped me with choosing nice lingerie and whatever. And when I went to my boyfriend for that date and, we was going to spend the night there, they literally said goodbye, like waved and bye, have fun, enjoy, yes, can you imagine? They like championed me on my way, on my bicycle.
That's so funny. Like that's something my friends would do, but mom and grandma, wow.
Yes.
Wow, I love that for you.
Russian
and that's because you grew up with women. That's so funny.
Welcome to No Boundaries, the podcast, the mother and daughter edition. This is a podcast in which we, a mother and daughter duo, have honest conversations, discuss controversial topics while also exploring the mother and daughter bond. And I'm the mother and my name is Anusha.
And I'm the daughter and my name is Lulu.
And today we're going to be speaking about, hookup culture, sexual freedom. How is it different now in compared to when I was young? What are the issues, and are there also differences between having, boy-girl relationships or any other gender type of relationships? That is our topic for today. But before we dive into this, we're going to talk about our shout out and shame. So Lulu, I was curious, maybe you can explain what our shout out and shame is, and if you have any.
So our shout out and shame is a segment we do each week where we share one thing that we enjoyed this week that we want to shout out, and we share one thing that we didn't enjoy and that we're going to shame. So I think my shout this week is that one of my friends convinced me finally to watch The L Word, and as a lesbian, it's pretty surprising that I have never watched it before.
I think even I told you to watch it years ago.
Yeah, like everyone's been telling me to watch it. But I tried to give it a chance like a few years ago when I first came out. And I don't know, I felt like it was pretty like male gaze and a little bit like old school, and there was some problematic stuff in the first episode. I was already like, kind of threw me off. But then last week my friend convinced me. She was like, no, you just have to give it a chance. And I'm so glad I did, because there are some problematic parts of it. It's not a perfect show, but I can only imagine for the time it was made in how inspired it must have been. And I genuinely believe that if I would have watched this show at a younger age, I probably would have realized I was gay way sooner. And it covers every topic about sexuality, about queerness, and it's also about friendship, which is beautiful. And it also is an accurate representation of the sex, since we will be talking about sex today. That's like shown the proper way and not like,
And because it's from like 2004, right? That you're watching, so that's like a pretty old show. But is it still relevant now that you're watching it now? Do you still recognize a lot of it, even though it's like literally more than 20 years old?
Yeah, I definitely recognize it because they explain a lot of like gay terms that we still use, and it's a friend group of 5 girls, and they all have a different type of like lesbian love trope or story. So it covers all of the tropes, and therefore no matter what type of relationships you're in, at least one of them you relate to. So it's very fun to watch it. I definitely recommend, although I'm sure most of my people have seen it already, but still, and even if you're straight, I think it's a very fun show.
No, I watched a couple of episodes with
and there was a fun fact, because one of the main characters, Shane, who, like, everyone's obsessed with her. She's the masculine girl in the friend group. Everyone thinks she's so hot. She's the player.
Very sexy.
She's, even straight girls will be a little like, about her. My mom. But what's funny is that she actually realized after recording season 3 that she was a lesbian. And she came out during filming the show.
Oh, wow.
The show made her realize she was a lesbian.
Amazing.
By acting it. She was like a straight femme. They just made her this mask for the role. And as it went on, she realized that she was part of the community. So that's so cute.
That's beautiful. The funny thing is, I didn't, when the show The L Word came out, I think I watched like 1 or 2 episodes, because it wasn't, 20 years ago, it wasn't easy to watch on Dutch TV. As you know, we're from the Netherlands. But I did watch her in another show, Ray Donovan. It's about like this fixer in Hollywood, and she is sort of like his, sidekick, the one who like works with him. And there she just, you don't know about her sexuality. She's just this really cool character. But she's the same as this Shane, but just you don't know anything about her.
Does she look feminine or she also
No.
looks
She
nice?
dresses, I mean, I don't know if you would call it masculine or feminine. She dresses like, cool with leather jackets. But because she's also a very, she's just a very pretty girl.
Yeah.
So she's just, and I remember then like watching and like, oh, I should be attracted to Ray Donovan, but I'm actually looking more at her.
Right.
So she was literally matching because she was Liv Schreiber plays the lead, which is considered by a lot of women like a really hot, attractive guy. But she was, on par with him, if not above him. So that's how I do her.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So, my shame of this week is, also has to do with television. I'm so upset, and I wonder if you've been still watching it, Lulu, that I'm so over, which I'm really upset about, Yellow Jackets.
Yeah. Season 3 just came out of Yellow Jackets, which is like one of my favorite shows ever.
Season 1, one of the best ever.
And season 2 as well. But season 3, it just fell off. The quality fell off.
The writing, especially the writing. I was so looking forward. Remember, we were both looking forward to season 3 because it's so nice for us also to watch because it's also, 2 generations. You see the women, how they are. Just, to quickly recap for people who don't know, it's a show about a group of girls who play together in a soccer team in high school. And when they are on the way to a tournament, their plane crashes. And, they have to survive like pretty much in the wilderness for almost like a year and a half. And we see them now, like 15, 20 years later. But we also have flashbacks of how they survived in that wilderness and their relationships and friendships. So really cool show for us also together to watch because we see them as teenagers and we see them now as grown-up women, closer to my age with children, some of them. So really, really cool. So season 1, incredible. We watched it together. Season 2, we also kind of, tried to watch episodes together. So we were both so looking forward to season 3. We started watching it, right, even together. And at some point, I just...
Yeah, the quality fell off. I haven't finished it yet. I should finish it because everyone says the ending is crazy. But yeah, I haven't finished it yet because, the quality is just, like, the writing, the dialogue, even the storylines, it's just messy. And the acting got worse, which is weird because it's the exact same actors. But I think it's just because the dialogue is, like...
Yeah, if the writing...
cringy.
The writing has to lead you kind of... And it's also so... sad because it's like so female driven, incredible female characters, such a gorgeous story. And what I don't understand, you don't need a lot of crazy things to happen because it's just from a psychological point of view so interesting to watch these women handle the trauma and the PTSD they suffered from having to survive a year and a half in the wilderness, right? You don't need a lot more just to see how they're surviving. But for some reason, because it's season 3, it becomes so convoluted with crazy stories when they were young and now, and sort of like, things that don't really make sense and can't really happen in real life that you think like, oh, were they just seeing that because they were starving? Or is this just all of a sudden like what are next thing? Zombies are going to come in? I don't know. It kind of make-believe, which... No, you can just tell the story with just great, incredible psychological writing with and it's a great writers team because it's for a big part, it's still the same writers team as season 1. So that is my shame of the week.
All right, with that being said, we will get into our topic of today, which is hookup culture, which means like any kind of sexual act with a person without any strings attached. So it could be like sexual intercourse, but it could also just be other kinds of acts. And it basically is somebody that you're seeing for the sole purpose of like intimacy. And it also means you're free to have intimacy with whoever you want. You don't owe anyone any loyalty. You're just out and about doing your thing. So that's what we identify hookup culture with, or a hookup. So my experience with hooking up, it started actually as soon as I became like sexually active. I was right into hooking up. And I enjoyed hooking up with several people. I liked going out and getting with random people. Okay, not like everyone, obviously, like not just random like that.
Hey, random!
Yeah. But I liked hooking up. Like, I can generally say I enjoyed it. And I thought it was fun. And for me, it was like this little game. And I liked the fact that I could like do whatever I want. But most importantly, I really liked getting these like experiences. And I liked, like, to me, it just, every time I would hook up with someone new, it would be like a whole new story, a whole new experience. And it would like teach me things I liked, things I don't like. So yeah, I started hooking up before I ever got in a relationship, which is kind of like controversial. Like, a lot of people who I tell that to, they're like surprised because a lot of them have their first time in a relationship, or the first person they're like really intimate with is somebody they're dating. For me, I was immediately into hooking up. But yeah, and a lot of people, they feel bad. Like, when I tell them about it, they think it's like this sad thing where it's like, oh, like,
why?
She can't find someone, or she's insecure, or she's looking for validation in other people, or they feel like I'm just like drunk and sad and just like trying to numb it out with hookups. Like, there's this big thing with that hooking up usually means that you're going through something, or you're trying to get over something, or you're just a mess. And I couldn't agree less, because for me, it was genuinely just fun. I didn't see why not. I never understood the whole weirdness about hooking up. And I wouldn't be the person I was today if I didn't have hookups, generally.
But the question about that, if you're talking about like hooking up and experiencing, you're talking about with girls, right?
Before I realized I was gay,
yeah,
and I was with men, I was hooking up.
Yeah.
That was a little different because, yeah, I didn't like men and I didn't know it back then. So I was just hooking up whenever I was drunk, and I was just like kind of like in the mood. I would just get with guys because that's what I thought I was into. And I never would date any guys, and I would never let it get further than hooking up because I didn't like guys and I couldn't stand them, and I would get so annoyed if I had a conversation with them. And every time I wanted to get rid of a guy, I would literally start talking about politics, and it always worked because we would have such a disagreement to the point where they're like, okay, I'm going to deal with all this. And then I didn't have to like do that awkward breakup thing. I could just push them away. Or I like being really toxic. I liked the on and off. Like, as soon as they liked me, I didn't like them anymore. When they didn't want me, that's when I wanted them. It was like this cat and mouse game. Because I was looking for things to excite me because they weren't exciting me.
Yeah, you were looking for a feeling, and you could.
Yeah.
It was easier to get the feeling through toxicity
Yeah.
than just from touching or being with a guy because you weren't really into them.
Yeah. And then when I was hooking up with guys, it was very always like one and done. I think almost every guy I've hooked up with in my life, it was a one night stand. Because I didn't see a need to do it again. And it was always drunk. Like, I would be drunk and like in the mood, and I would just be like, whatever, like, and I was always very like, when I would hook up with a guy, I was always like, I wanted to get it over with quick, and I was just kind of like, wanted to get straight into it, because I just wanted to like feel it.
And was that because the hunt was more exciting than the build up was more exciting than hooking up?
It was really just, I was horny, and like, I needed some kind of action, and I was unexperienced when it came to like masturbation and all that, so I just got it from guys. And it's like, might be a TMI, but I literally would use guys for just straight penetration. That's it. Because that's what confused me. I like the feeling of penetration, but I don't actually like...
Didn't like the whole thing attached to it, the
I
body.
didn't. And I literally, there's been guys, like, I wouldn't even touch them. I wouldn't even, like, want to kiss them like that. And I don't want to hear them moan. I don't want to hear anything. I don't want to do anything to their private area. I just wanted to just get it done. And guys would tell me that I was very rushed. And I was, because I just wanted to feel penetration. I didn't actually want to get with him,
God,
Yeah.
Wow. So, okay, TMI maybe, but hey, this is, No Boundaries, the podcast Mother and Daughter edition. And I think, to be honest, as a mother, I think it's important to talk about these things because, we talk about violence, we talk about all sorts of horrible topics with our kids, but not about this. I mean, I think sexual education is very important. Speaking of that, so if I may ask, and if it's too TMI, then, we'll cut this out. But because you realized you liked, the penetration part, and of course, you would have orgasms with guys.
No. I've never orgasmed with a guy, ever.
Okay, so then why did you like the penetration?
I like the feeling of it.
Even without an orgasm?
Yeah, it still feels good, and there's still like a build-up.
Ah, okay.
I just like the feeling of it. That's why I was confused for a long time. But then I met fingers, and they do it way better.
But yeah, and speaking of that, so didn't that make you then start to kind of like experiment with yourself?
No, I don't know. That's again why sexual education is so important, and it's important to talk about it with your children. I didn't know anything about masturbating for a long time, and I didn't really know how to do it. And I tried sometimes, but it wasn't really doing anything. The first time I actually like masturbating was with a toy.
And that didn't do anything?
No, it did.
Yeah.
The toy did. But I wasn't able to do it myself because I didn't really know how to. Okay. And that's important because if you don't know how to do it yourself, you can't expect anyone else to know how to do it.
And that is not something that you would discuss with your girlfriends? How to do
like my
that?
friends?
Or, yeah.
No.
Yeah. Your friends, right? Yeah, your girls.
No, not my friends. Not really. We kind of spoke about it later on. And I remember when I was first opening up to you about hooking up and you realized I wasn't really into it, you did start educating me on masturbation, which helped.
I wish I could have spoken to you more. Of course, you were in college, you moved out. The thing is, my mother, who is from a completely different generation, but maybe because she worked in biochemistry, she's a professor and whatever, and she really taught, educated me. She literally sat me down. It was like, listen.
How old were you when this happened?
I think at a young age, she already spoke to me like, listen, what do you want to do? Are you already experimenting? You have to use condoms, whatever. So she talks to me about protection. And I was like, no, I don't. And I said to her, like, I'm completely not ready to have sex. And I really wasn't. I was a late bloomer. I didn't have sex until I was like 19 for the first time. So when I really fell in love and wanted to have sex, I was like almost 20. So when I was about 17, 18, she did sit me down and was like, hey, listen, I know you're maybe not sexually active yet, but you have to know your body. It's important to know your own body before you're sexually active. I listened to her and she literally told me, like, look at your kitty cat, take a mirror, you have to experiment, you have to touch, you have to do. But the funny thing was, I was like, yeah, of course, but I was already very active with myself. So
when she had to talk with you, you've already been masturbating.
Oh, yeah, for years. So even though it took me a long time before I wanted to be sexually active with a guy, I was sexually active with myself from a young age, really young age. And
that helps you because your first time having sex, you knew how to orgasm.
Yeah, so can you imagine the first time I had sex, which is, doesn't happen often, I orgasmed because I knew what to do and what felt good for me. Yeah.
This just reminds me that
I just have to laugh that we're having these.
Yeah, it's honestly, it feels weird. Even now that I'm talking about it, I'm like thinking in my head, like, whoa, am I really gonna put this out here for the public for anyone to see? But at the same time, why is it weird? We all do these things. This is normal for everyone to do, no matter what job or culture or whatever. Like, everyone enjoys certain things. Everyone needs certain things. So why is it so weird to talk about? Why do I feel uncomfortable?
I know.
It should be a normal topic because we all experience it. And if we're able to help and grow, because there's so many people who don't know what they're doing. And it's harmful.
Especially women. We are so not educated. We're so not allowed. We're still, again, as we've said so often, we live in this patriarchal society and you have this still whole like Madonna whore trope. Women are hardly allowed to have too much sex or enjoy it. So I think it's revolutionary to talk about it, and we should help and support each other. And the thing is, that's what I would always say to you guys when you were small, to my children. Like, listen, at least I'll be honest. If you have to hear it from someone, maybe better to hear it from me or ask questions to me, because I'll be honest. And what the funny thing is, I don't know if I ever told you that, when I was going to have sex for the first time with my boyfriend when I was almost 20. My mom knew about it, and my grandmother knew about it, and they literally helped me with choosing nice lingerie and whatever. And when I went to my boyfriend for that date, and I was gonna spend the night there, they literally said goodbye, like waved and bye, have fun and enjoy. Yes, can you imagine? They like championed me on my way on my bicycle.
That's so funny. Boyfriend. Like, that's something my friends would do, but mom and grandma. Wow, wow, I love that for you.
Russian
and that's because you grew up with women. That's so funny. No, and just reminds me that we should do an episode on like female orgasm for sure. We should do an episode on that. Because I think it would be genuinely helpful for people to hear about it. Yeah.
guys, if that's what you want, let us know.
With that being said, let's get back to hooking up.
Yeah.
So yeah, have you ever been involved in hookup culture? Why?
Yes.
Because I know you as a relationship person, so maybe your reasons for hooking up were different than mine. So
yeah, so growing up as a teenager in the 80s in Amsterdam was very liberated, really, really, really freeing at a really young age. So I had friends who lost their virginity at like 13. That was like, I wouldn't say, well, pretty normal. So a lot of kids, we start high school really young, we start high school at like 12, 13. And it was completely normal that when you were like 14, 15, a lot of my girlfriends already had sex.
No, I know, because I grew up in the Netherlands too. And if you hadn't had sex when you, like, before 15, like by 15, 16, then you're like late. And everyone was like, yeah, like, no matter what, as long as I lose it before I'm 16, because 16 is like the cutoff.
Yeah. So I knew I wasn't, like, physically, I knew that's not for me. But what was also normal was hooking up, kissing. Like really making out, like heavy petting and making out at parties. Because where I lived, everybody played field hockey. And we had huge parties, like almost every weekend at different field hockey clubs. Because where I lived in my part of the city, there were like at least 10, 15 different field hockey clubs. And we would all go out, like from a young age, can you imagine, 13, 14, we'd go to those parties. Hardly any grown-ups, no chaperones, nothing. They would serve alcohol because then there was no legal limit of buying alcohol. You could easily buy beers or, usually beer. Of course, I mean, not of course, but I didn't drink because first of all, I didn't like the taste of beer. And with my food issues, I was very afraid of the calories. So I was never a drinker. But all my friends, we would all would hook up with guys and kiss. Yeah. But I wasn't a really popular girl because I was one of the few girls of color. I kind of looked different body shape, different body type. We spoke about that enough. So I was always more the chaperone of my friends, making sure I could find everyone while they were kissing at all these kind of parties. And I was completely worried, like, oh my God, will I please have my first kiss at least before I'm 15? Mm-hmm. Thank God that happened. So then I was kind of in and I felt better. So hooking up was a huge part of our culture, making out with guys. With random, at parties, whatever. And if you scored, that was considered like amazing and really, really cool. Yeah. Sort of like in England.
It was like kissing was a big thing at parties. And I remember every time somebody went out and they would tell you the next day about their party. So I was like, "Ooh, did you kiss anyone?" Yes. Like that's one of the first questions.
Yeah, I've had one night stands, but still not a lot sexually, or even with petting and with fingers, and of course with orgasms. Mm-hmm. But not with penetration. I was always very critical, very judgmental. Okay. A lot of men, I was like, "Yeah, you're not worth it to penetrate me. Right. You can touch me, you can do stuff with you, and I will not touch that thing." I was very much a pillow princess, very spoiled in that sense. Plus, I was always very careful with who I would hook up with. I had like my own system. So I didn't hook up a lot with friends or people who I knew or from my side.
Yeah, so you never had a hookup with somebody you were just friends with and one night it just kind of happened and then after that you guys continue to be friends?
No. Okay. I would go out to certain bars and certain areas where I knew worlds would not collide. These were guys who were not in my circle. Because, again, Amsterdam is very small and my acting circle and musician circle was really, really, really small. And I think I was still, suffering from internalized sexism that I wanted to be, called a slut or was afraid, Yeah. So how is it different if you look at female hookup culture?
Yeah, because I think for my friends, most of my friends, like a lot of my friends are straight. And I think for hookup culture in the straight world, it's definitely like controlled by men a lot. And it's always like men are the ones like getting it on with a lot of girls and that's like normal. And it's almost like surprising if you meet a guy who's not hooking up or who's not like a cheater. And then on the other hand, a lot of girls who are hooking up are usually hooking up because the guy only wants to hook up with them, but if the guy would want more than hooking up, they would also want that. Or they like just got heartbroken or stuff like that. So I think in straight culture, it's very like, the guy's in control with the hookup culture. Still. Wow. And I have like some friends that are girls where they're the ones in control if they're doing whatever they want. But a lot of friends I have, it's one of these things where they're just hooking up and they don't care, they don't like him, But then as time goes on, I realize they do like him. They're just kind of waiting for him to change his mind, which sucks. It sucks. And people would always tell me that I'm acting like a guy and I have a mindset of a guy because of how I viewed hooking up and how I was. And for me, I can genuinely hook up with someone and have it be just only that and not feel anything else for them. And yeah, it's easy for me to be intimate with someone as well without it meaning anything. Like for me, hooking up and a relationship are two very different things. And I had a conversation with my friends recently about it too. And that way I explained it kind of made sense to him, because it's one of those things where, say you have a relationship and your partner and like you guys like could have really like sex is important, of course, and you guys have really good sex and the sex is amazing, whatever. But once you get in an argument about anything, you're not thinking about, oh, the sex is good. Like, you know what I mean? Like, when you're in an argument, you can still break up over something that they said or did or the way they behaved. And moments like that, it doesn't really matter anymore that the sex is good or that you're having sex. Like, a relationship is way more, like, emotional.
Yeah.
It is. Sex is more like a plus, and it's nice and it's good, but it's not what's going to keep you there. So, yeah, for me, sex and relationships have always been two very separate matters, personally.
Yeah.
So for girl hookup culture, it's definitely different because a lot of girls, they know each other. And it's, again, the same standard where the mask and studs, they're the whores, they're always cheating and playing everybody.
Can you explain the terms, mask and studs? Yeah.
Sorry, I'm like way too used to hear on gay people. So mask stands for like masculine representing women. So these are a lot of women that either like wear masculine clothing, and often also have like masculine energy to them. And studs is more towards black women specifically, who also wear masculine clothing. So yeah, studs is a term for only black women. Mask is just any type of masculine woman. But it's weird, as time went on, there's like a new definition. I don't know how to explain this, but basically now studs we refer to unintentionally to like obviously like black masculine women still, because it's like offensive you say that to like other races, but it's very like the hyper masculine woman. So usually when you're talking about a stud, you're talking about somebody who's like hardcore stud, somebody who's like basically has a lot more, I hate to say it, but a lot more like traits and mindset and behaviors that are low-key a little similar to a guy.
Okay.
I hate to say it that way, but that's like the best way to explain it. Meanwhile, masks are more in touch with their femininity, and they're more like girly, personality-wise.
Yeah. So even
They
if
dress
look...
masculine, but they're very like a girly pop in the inside. But the studs are like in and out, very like
So
and
are
it's a different culture, and I think like because I've even been with black girls who identify as a mask, not as a stud.
That's what I wanted to ask.
So it's very different
now.
which is weird how that just randomly changed. But yeah, it makes sense.
Of course. And that has happened, that you've seen that development in the last couple of years.
Yeah. This is like a recent thing that I just realized the other day when I was talking to somebody about it who's black and identifies as mask, but not as a stud.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an interesting one.
And do you prefer your hookups then to be with the studs, like the most toxic ones, because then you know, like, oh yeah, they're not gonna bother me because they're toxic as well? Or
yeah, no, I think I was into studs when I first like came out and I was first exploring, and I hate to say it, but it was a smoother transition in a way because it was a girl and the body I'm actually attracted in, but mindset and conversation wise, it was what I was familiar with and what I was comfortable with from men. So it was easier at first. But now that I'm like all the way in touch with like me being a lesbian and being gay, and I'm like so gay, I have to be with like women, like, oh, like I have to be with somebody who's like, yeah, very in touch with their femininity. So yeah.
But speaking of that, are you also more getting into, because, so you still like the mask stud energy, or are you also beginning now that you're getting a little, I mean, you're still really young, but are you also sort of like looking differently now at, let's call it, I don't know if that's the right term, feminine presenting women?
So for me, I don't have a type when it comes to how they dress. I have very type in their vibe and their energy. Like, I'm attracted to masculine energy. I am. So it could be a femme or a masc. Most often they're masc because a lot of mascs, they already like feel more like masculine. But there's femmes who carry masculine energy, and those are the same femmes that I like would go for. I just like when somebody's very like has a certain vibe and certain confidence in the way they carry. It's the way they carry themselves. It's not even a personality thing, because I know so many masks who are very like sweet and like nice. It's like it's the way you carry yourself, the way you're like stepping into a room. It's really one of those things. It's like when you know, you know.
Yeah, because you showed me a girl, one of the actresses on the L Word, who is classically like female presenting.
She dresses
right?
female presenting, but her vibe, like the way she talks, the way she walks, is like, it's giving like, yeah.
Can you tell us which character it is? So
It's Marina from the L Word. I would like, yeah. I love her.
And she has like long hair.
She's so hot.
feminine.
She wears skirts and everything. Yeah, she's so hot. Like, it's her confidence and it's the way she's like so comfortable and so gay. Like, I don't know. I love it. But apparently she's like problematic in real life. But I'm talking about the character.
Yeah.
Character I love. But yeah, hookup culture in the lesbian community is very much, every time somebody meets a mask, they immediately assume that the mask is a player or a whore or playing games.
Oh.
And yeah, it's annoying because...
and is that true?
For masks, it's annoying because they're just being like kind of compared to how men are. Often there's like big issues with like, that. I don't think it's true. I actually, in my experience, a lot of the femmes are way sneakier and way worse than the masks, I think. And I think the masks are just like, they hook up with whoever and they do their thing when they're having fun, but when they like someone, they like someone. They're like all in. I think femmes are way more like they don't know what they want and they're like all over the place. And like, you can't really put it in a box like that, but just in my experience.
Just for the sake of conversation.
And I think what it really is that masculine women, they get typically more attention from women than feminine women because they look very gay and people know right away, okay, she's gay. And if you see a femme, you're less likely to go up to them because you're not sure. But with a mask, you're like, okay, you know they're like girls. So they get way more attention from girls. And there's not as many masks as femmes. So that's another reason why they get way more attention. Like, it's rare, like, if you look in your class or your school or your work, like, how often are you really in the same space as a masked woman, you know? For people who aren't in that community, like...
Because I mean, still living, you know, in a really sexist society, it's risk to dress that way as a woman. To present yourself that way. Yeah, I can imagine.
And you can't ever hide from the fact that you're gay. Like, for me, I don't deal with people treating me differently based on my appearance because they don't know if I'm gay. I'm able to mask it if I need to.
Yeah.
And if you're like mask presenting, you can't mask it.
Yeah.
And even if you try to like dress differently, it's an energy. It's gonna come through.
Yeah. And is it also because like if you look at gay culture, especially men, there's like not a lot of problems with men having relationship and then having open relationships and fooling around with each other. Like we have a connection and so we don't ask each other questions. How is that in female relationships as opposed, you know, in relationships in regards to also hookup culture? Is it normal for women to, for instance, be in a relationship with each other and kind of like, you know, we're not going to ask each other questions and we're hooking up when we're together?
In my experience, like every straight relationship is very much rules and they have very specific, we're open or we're close and this is cheating. I think in in lesbian relationship, it's very different. It's way more open, it's way more flexible. Almost every gay couple I know, they have different standards for what they find cheating. Some like to experiment, some think it's okay to flirt, like, and some like to be like poly or like be open, or some relationships that are long distance, they're kind of like, when we're not together, we can do whatever and we don't ask questions, but when we're together, we're only with each other. So it's very more open because I think emotionally they're just more in tune and aware women. So it's way more common for them to find different ways to make their relationship work rather than narrowing all these rules that were made specifically for straight relationships and also in a really different time and age. Like, a lot of rules for relationships are unrealistic. And if you're so in love with someone, but it's not working because of a certain thing, but then you're going to break up because they might get with other people, like, when you could work through it together, like, I don't know, there's like, it's just way more open, I think.
Yeah.
And it's also a lot more normalized. Like, I know for straight people, if they're in an open relationship, it's like a thing. And then people assume right away that the guy wanted it.
Yeah.
But for a lesbian relationship, if they're open, no one questions it. No one's even surprised. And it's like, totally like classic lesbian relationship. So yeah, I think that's definitely very different with hooking up. And it's also different because, yeah, like, for example, if you're with a guy, you can easily say like, oh, you can't let another girl sit on your lap or hold hands with a girl. But when you're with a girl, it's harder because your friends are girls, but you're also into girls, and maybe one of your friends is into girls. So then how do you define which girls you can be like physically touchy with? Because I'm touchy with my like platonic girlfriends. So how do you like identify which girls you can be a certain way with, but with which girls is cheating? And you can't narrow it down to like masc or femme. That's what some people try to do, but it doesn't work that way either. It's so more, it's also way unrealisticer to have these rules.
Yeah.
Because there's so many types of women. But yeah, as for hookup culture with women, it can be messy because a lot of girls know each other. And
it's a smaller pool, right?
It's a smaller pool, but also it's so much more confusing because when you're hooking up with women, it's so easy to then be cuddling and holding hands and like having deep talks about life and sleeping over, waking up together, eating breakfast, but then you're just hooking up. That's super normal for girls because you click and you're close and it's a vibe. And like every girl hookup I've had that was just sex, it was always a sleepover and like cuddling and like talking involved, which is different because with guys, they're very like, if they're just only using you for sex, you're gonna know. You're gonna know.
It's so funny that you're saying this.
They're so cold.
I remember, like, you know, hooking up with guys, and of course, I mean, spend the night, no way, you know.
No, you don't do that, and if you do that, then you're desperate.
Yeah, and I remember once I was hooking up with a guy, actually, you know, in Amsterdam. I was back for vacation, and, you know, and I was like, okay, bye, go, and he just stayed. And was like hanging on and cuddling and talking and coffee and this.
And it's like,
I was like,
cringe.
Oh my God,
we're just hooking up,
It's so ridiculous. It's like, when are you leaving? And at some point I really have to say, you know what? I have to go, even though it was my place, to just kick him out. And it wasn't even that he wanted a relationship with me or anything, but he was just, we're having so much fun. And I was like,
Yeah, no, exactly. Like, straight culture hookup is just that.
Yeah.
Which for me, as girls, we don't agree with it because we're like, the sex is way better if you also have some type of vibe instead of just some random in and out.
No, I don't agree with that.
Okay, why not?
No. If you really know, again, I mean, it has to do with knowing yourself and knowing your body. If you know your body really, really well, and if you know really what turns you on, it's amazing to experiment with someone you have absolutely no feelings with. And I'm not talking about longevity, because having a long relationship, you need to know each other and trust each other, and there can be like these, there's like
I'm not talking about feelings, I'm talking
about emotional layers that can also help with your excitement and with your orgasms. But I can tell you that I've had incredible experiences with somebody I really, really didn't like. Sort of a bit like the enemies to lovers trope in one night or in 1 hour.
Me too. Like I've had them at parties and stuff. But I'm saying when hooking up, when somebody's coming over to your house, it ends up being a little bit emotional as well, which adds on to the sex. Like it's a nice plus without there being feelings, because you have conversations and stuff. It adds for me.
For me, I've had amazing with, and literally I would say to that guy, let's not have conversations.
Yeah, sometimes
I knew he was different. It was like some stupid, problematic, whatever bartender.
But if it's a guy,
I did not want to have a conversation. Like you said, like I don't want to talk about politics because I know then I'm gonna like kick you out of my apartment. Yeah. So no, don't.
You can't live with yourself knowing that you hooked up with somebody who has that mindset. Yeah.
So I don't want to know. I just want to, you know, have fun. Yeah.
No, I get that, especially if it's with guys. I get that.
For sure. I think that's a big difference. Yeah.
And with women, it's way more. It's like. It's almost impossible to have hookups with women without it being also like intimate. Unless like I've had some random hookups with girls at a party and that was very not intimate. It was very just sex. But if it's like coming over, it almost is always a sleepover and you always end up talking about stuff and you end up cuddling. But it doesn't mean anything. And it's rare to find girls for who it doesn't mean anything. So when you do have somebody that you can like generally just have sex with but also kind of act in a way like you're dating, it's like the perfect combination because, you get like all your you get satisfied with everything, but you don't have any like commitment to them.
Yeah.
It's nice.
I had that too when I studied here in the United States. I had like this guy, and we would hook. I two like these kind of experiences. One was a guy who was younger than me, and he was in college, so of course he was, and he was like this whatever jockey, frat guy, football player, like big guy. So that was great because we would have sort of like dates, right?
Yeah.
And kind of like, it was exciting and then we would hook up. But it was not a relationship at
Exactly,
all, like at all. But still the fun and like, having a drink, not just, no talking. Yeah, I loved it. And also with another guy who I worked with who was like, listen, I'm a big mess. There's no way we're ever going to have a relationship, but I just like hanging out with you sometimes outside of work. So at work, nobody knew. We wouldn't, because we worked in a restaurant industry. So nobody knew, wouldn't speak about it, but it was really exciting that we had like this, secret between us. And there was a bit of a connection because we really genuinely liked each other as people.
Yeah, that's a pretty gay experience, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I like that. So overall, what do you think, what is our opinion on hookup culture? Do we recommend? Do we think it's the reason people aren't having good relationships right now? Do you think hookup cultures are cheaters?
I think a lot of it has to do with the position of women.
Yeah.
Because I think, and I've said that before, I think it, just like I said with you and when we spoke with you and Nayeli, it's important to experiment, it's important to try, it's important to get to know yourself.
Yeah.
And again, as women, we're not allowed to do that. We're not allowed to discover our own body. Society tells us you have to be this, you have to be that. The box where you have to fit in is so tiny. But if you just look at the world from like a bigger perspective, yes, hookup culture is amazing. Have fun and experiment. Of course.
Safely.
Spoiler alert, always be safe. Make sure everything you do is safe and that you feel safe. And unfortunately, as a woman, that's still a big risk, especially with men.
Yeah.
Because they might, do horrible things to you and just not use a condom.
And I've had one guy who literally took off the condom without my knowledge.
Which is, I think now...
Officially, that's assault.
Officially, that's like assault, thank God. But then to have to go to the police with mostly men to kind of like,
and then you also feel like it's kind of
that's
like too small when really it's not. I could have had I could have gone pregnant. I could have gone an STD.
Yeah.
Like, hello.
Yeah, and I'm not even talking about AIDS, but it's also not fun to get any other STD. It's horrible.
No.
It's dangerous. So I think as women we're still in such a vulnerable, position. Even though if you just look at it from like a, spiritual perspective. It's amazing to experiment and to find out, and I have great memories of like kissing and making out and having fun
and I don't know if you agree, but Omi's story inspired me because you told me once how Omi said the best sex she had was with, I'm not gonna say his name, but a certain somebody she was with because she genuinely thought he was ugly and she wasn't attracted to him, but it was the best sex for her because she wasn't worried about how do I look, how do I sound, does he like me. She was able for the first time to just be herself, have orgasms, be crazy, and feeling confident with the person you're getting with.
Because she didn't care.
Makes such a difference for women to get an orgasm, and it helps sometimes if you're with like an ugly person who's like on you, who admires you because you can just feel confident.
Which, on the other hand, again, is horrible. That is, needed for a woman to feel comfortable. And if you look at the numbers, how little, we'll research the numbers and they'll be in our show notes and in our newsletter. Please subscribe to our Substack where we have all the relative links of all the topics we discuss. Still, the majority of women, even today as we speak in 2025, do not have orgasms from penetration.
Yeah.
Even though physically we're completely are capable of doing that.
Yeah, and a lot of my friends specifically in relationship.
Even young girls today, sorry to interrupt.
And even my friends, like a lot of my friends, they couldn't have orgasms for the longest time, and it wasn't even a thing where the guy didn't know what they were doing. It was like an emotional thing, like of not feeling confident or not feeling fully like yourself or constantly being worried how you look or not looking ugly instead of just letting go. And a lot of girls, they didn't start orgasming with their boyfriends until like a year in because by that time they finally felt like themselves. It's so sad. Like the biggest part is in our head, not even how someone is doing it. Like there's two parts of having an orgasm as a woman, which is why I think it could be interesting to talk about it because a lot of people don't talk about the emotional part. Like you have to be in a certain mindset and you have to really put your mind to it. Well,
the interesting thing is, and that's what your dad, who's a psychiatrist, said, if you just look at our brains, women and men, our brains are, for 99.9% the same. And also what we find attractive is for 99.9% the same.
Yeah.
It's just that there's such a cultural bias and there's so much ingrained sexism within ourselves that we are not, that we don't allow ourselves, that we literally get blocked. Even though we get just as horny from, seeing stuff. And of course, if we have another conversation about that, yeah, look at how we've conditioned to look even at sex. Because if you look at movies, you know, that's usually not how women...
Or porn.
Yeah, or even porn, how women, you know, what women find... It's all find enjoyable. It's all done from a male gaze, from a male perspective, what men like, what men find attractive.
And even a lot of lesbian movies, Blue is the Warmest Color, directed by men. The lesbian sex is just literally what guys imagine it looks like or what guys think looks hot. Like, when I saw that, I was like, no lesbian has sex like that. Nobody likes that. Nobody actually likes that. And then I looked it up. I was like, this has to be made by men. Looked it up. Yup. And apparently the actors were very uncomfortable. Like, so that's how far this whole male gaze on sex goes, that it's even in a relationship that doesn't involve men. Yeah. And yeah, even porn for lesbian women, it's so hard because almost all the porn stars that are doing the lesbian sex are straight, and you can just tell. Like, I don't get turned on by lesbian porn because it's obviously so fake, and these girls are obviously so straight. And I've maybe seen only one like video in my life where it's a masculine woman. First of all, that's another whole thing that doesn't exist. Yeah, it's so not accurate.
No, and if you look at straight porn, a lot of men look at women having sex with each other, but from a male perspective for the enjoyment of men.
And always the male POV. Which is fair, like nobody wants to see this guy being like, oh, like no. So.
Okay, I think we've reached a natural end.
Yeah.
There's no boundaries.
I think this low-key became like just a crazy girl talk about a whole bunch of stuff. So this is a little less organized, a little more conversational. So let us know if you like this style, because it's a bit more casual, a bit more, you know, girly talk. So
yes.
Yeah, we enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed it. Like, comment, subscribe.
Yes, please subscribe.
Give us a review.
We need a 5-star review. We have our Substack with all the relevant links. We post links about everything we spoke
We're
about.
on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, guys. We also post little snippets on Instagram and TikTok. And yeah, please let us know what you want to hear from us. What would you like us to talk about? We have no boundaries, as you can tell by the name and by today's conversation. We can talk about anything. And if there's something you feel like you're scared to ask your mom, or you scared to start this conversation with your daughter, we are here.
And as we always end the show, I love you, I love me, and we love y'all.